Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben, and in this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue podcast, we're talking all things barbecue with the man who invented barbecue Jenga. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. This is super cool today. We've got Andrew Kavanagh from Natural Born Grillers and the Que Club. He's affectionately known as Cav around the circuit, and if you've ever been to a barbecue competition, you'll know exactly where they are because that's where the best party is. But before we get into some more information about Cav, I've just got a few announcements that I need to run by you first. First up, I'd like to thank our podcast partner Ozpig for coming on board for this episode. If you're looking for a great outdoor camper cooker that's an all-round camp kitchen unit, I'm struggling today. An all-round camp kitchen unit? Terrible. Okay, the Ozpig is what you're after. It's got everything. It's a wood-fired stove. It's got a smoker attachment. It's got a rotisserie attachment. It's got hot plates. You name it, it's got it. You can pack it in a bag, throw it in the back of the car, take it out in the bush with you, and you can still have all your favorite ways of cooking at home out there with you in the bush. So do check them out, ozpig.com.au. They got some great stuff, and I love cooking on mine. Next up, if you're just at the start of your journey, head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com because we've got a free ebook available for you. It's the Beginner's Guide to Real Barbecue. In there, you'll find everything you need to take you from zero to hero in the backyard. No more burnt sausages, no more burnt steaks, no more crunchy black burnt onions. You're just going to have some delicious smoked meats. It's been internationally awarded by the NBBQA over in the USA, so you know it's a high-quality ebook, and we've got it available for free for you at the moment. So head on over there, smokinghotconfessions.com. Now, this lunchtime today, I'd like to welcome everybody who's joining us online for this beautiful recording session. I can see that we've already got several people with us. If you would like to be a part of these live podcast recordings as well, head on over to Facebook. It's the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Community. It's a group. We just hang out, talk about barbecue, and we do these live podcast recordings with all our guests. So it gives the people in that group a chance to interact with our guests. So if you are joining us live, make sure you start putting your comments and your questions in there. So we can already see here we've got Grant Leckie saying, hi all. He's super stoked to hear what Cav has to say in this program today. So let's keep rolling. Now, if you are catching this later on YouTube, do make sure you give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. If you're catching it up on Facebook, it's all about the likes, the comments, and the shares, particularly the shares. Facebook loves those shares. IGTV, we love those cute little love hearts, and give us a comment and make sure you're following us there as well. And if you are listening in later on a podcast app, particularly Apple Podcasts, the ratings and reviews are super important. They help drive us up the charts, and in the last month, we've been as high as number 6 on the US podcast charts for food and as high as 3 on the Australian podcast charts for food. So that is super important and super helpful that you're putting in those ratings and reviews for us, and we really do appreciate it. Okay, so Cav from the Que Club, from Natural Born Grillers. He was on the original cast of Aussie BBQ Heroes way back in the day. So he's come a long way. He's a pioneer. He's an icon. He's a leader, particularly down in the Victorian scene down there where the Que Club is like really the hub of the low and slow barbecue scene. I think that's fair to say. And it's going to be great to catch up on his story, get filled in on how he came to be where he is, and I'm always interested to find out where he's going in the future because Cav is a man who's always on the go. He's always planning and growing and developing, so it's going to be very interesting to find out where the Que Club's going to be going from here. But I think that's all the spruiking that I need to do for him. Let's get him in here.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Cav, good afternoon, mate. Welcome to the confessional.
Oh, it's fantastic to be here, Ben. Thank you very much for having us. What an introduction. I'm actually a bit blown away. I guess a few blasts from the past there. You brought up barbecue Jenga. My God.
Mate, it's a staple of the Australian barbecue competition circuit now.
I love to have seen how it has evolved. I think there's chapters all over the country. It's become much like Fight Club.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah. But I'm not sure. Is it evolved or devolved? I'm not too sure. It's
Oh, I think that, I think it never really got to a point where it was properly evolved anyway. I think the one rule about barbecue Jenga, there was no rules. They just made up at the time, much to I think a few newcomers discussed.
and then flexible throughout the duration of the game.
I think it all went down to how many drinks you had. I think it just got looser as the night went on, which is much like any sort of party activity that's carried out at a barbecue competition or festival.
Exactly. Yeah. So for those unfamiliar, just give us a quick recap on what barbecue Jenga is.
I will excuse the terminology. I know Bobby from Firebrand would like me saying this, but I mean, we picture robo-turds, which is essentially extruded sort of briquettes of charcoal. They have a hollow centre. I think it was back in 2016 at the Creekside barbecue competition, and I think it was in the wee hours of the morning. And just to picture it, folks, Creekside's right in the middle of sort of Western Victoria, very cold at night, and so most teams that were up doing I guess watching their pits or drinking a few beverages, or both. Sit around a fire. Well, this particular evening, I think we're sitting around a fire, and a couple of members of our team started just stacking these briquettes, on top of each other, making a bit of a pyramid, as you might say. And it just turned out that we just started passing around a little bit of a hot stoker, and if anyone let one fall, they had to do a shot of liquor, which probably doesn't seem that sort of offensive at the time, but as these towers get bigger and bigger, and I guess the game sort of evolved from there. I think it started off with like 4 participants, and then by about 3 o'clock in the morning, I think there's probably about 10 people sitting around our fire cheering every time this tower of basically molten briquettes would fall down. But that wasn't without its injuries, I guess. That's part of I guess if you play with fire, you are going to get burnt.
That is the way the expression goes. Yeah. No, Barbecue Jenga is a riot. It's an absolute riot. It's so much fun.
It really is.
But mate, tell me, what was the last thing that you barbecued for yourself?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, with the restaurant now, we're doing we're doing hundreds of kilos of brisket a week here. I mean, at home, I just love a simple steak. It's the simple things in life. Like I just get a nice, I think it was a flank steak 2 nights ago. I just grilled over the egg. And to me, just that in its simplicity is just absolutely delicious. I think a simple sort of, SPG style rub cooked over, live fire. And, I've got a 2.5-year-old, and his favourite word and favourite food is steak. He's like, Daddy, more steak, more steak. So I think I'm breeding a pure carnivore child here. He's, he absolutely adores it.
So you've got him on the paleo diet already?
Oh, he's proper caveman, this little man. He's a legend. No, he brings a lot of joy to us. But I mean, we play around at home a lot with like experimental dishes. I mean, we have a head chef who is who's amazing at the restaurant, and he comes from a Brazilian heritage. So I think it's just born in their DNA, really, cooking with fire. So what we have to add to what he does these days is quite minuscule when you think about how the Que Club sort of evolved, 4 years ago to what it is now. And I have to pinch myself sometimes that it only has been, 4 years. We started the business purely as a barbecue store with a cafe and with a bit of a slant towards that education and trying to gain people's knowledge, further people's knowledge. Because when I started out, there was literally nothing there, or what was there was quite fragmented, which was really, I guess, the birth of the whole business plan of the Que Club, where I decided to rip off the suit and tie and I guess see what you're looking at today, which is a bit of a barbecue creation, unfortunately, in some ways.
Yeah, no, it's always interesting to sort of pause and take a moment and sort of look back on where we've come from and where we are now and sort of take stock of that. So with that in mind, tell us how you got into barbecue. Like, was your dad into barbecue, your granddad? Like, was it something that you were born into or something you came to later in life?
It's something I came to later in life. I mean, everyone knows, whenever I'm at a barbecue competition, or festival, Pam, my lovely wife, is right beside me, and we formed, I guess, the Natural Born Grillers. And Pam and I, we met when I was living in Europe. And one thing that I did notice when we're living in sort of, continental Europe is, barbecue is not basically an LPG cylinder connected to a 3 burner barbecue. They don't call that barbecue over there. Barbecue is lighting coals, having a fire and cooking, basically, how barbecue really should be. Um, so when we moved back to Australia about 10 years back, we sort of, I guess, employed that philosophy in cooking at home. And one of the first things I bought when we moved back to Australia, as I said, 10 years ago, was a Kamado Joe, believe it or not. Don't say that, we sell big green eggs now. So anyhow, we had a ceramic barbecue, and I just fell in love with that style of cooking. I mean, in Europe, I had a Weber and the kettle and all that sort of stuff, and it was fun. But I mean, to come back and just discover this whole new way of cooking, and I hadn't really smoked a lot, even though I'd been traveling to America, quite a lot with my work. I've worked, prior to the Que Club, I worked for American companies for about 15 years. Probably hence why I've got a bit of a love and affinity with, I guess, the country and its style of cooking. But we came back to Australia, and Pam and I, being quite foodies, we just loved cooking. I mean, I loved cooking everything in that Kamado. I'd cook my breakfast, lunch, and tea in it. I'd be bacon in the morning. It would be, I'd even work out a way to do a toasted sanger in my Kamado. It was like I had to cook everything in it. It was just one of those things. It became a bit of an obsession. And then came along, I guess the invitation to audition for a little known TV. It was a pilot TV show, Aussie BBQ Heroes. Hadn't really done much low and slow up until that point. We'd slow cook things, of course, and we'd braise things, of course, and you may not have been aware of it. We're probably already employing, I guess, the principles of low and slow cooking without even knowing that's what we're doing, if that makes sense. It's one thing I even talk about today all the time to anyone who comes in the store about wanting to widen the breadth of, proteins they can cook in their barbecue. I still go back to say, look, anything you can really braise, you can smoke. And then to me, then it just worked backwards. And that's sort of worked well with us, even in competition, where when we're looking for, I guess, more exotic sort of cuts to cook and everything like that. So I'd look at, whether it be a beef shin or an oxtail or all these things that, as I said, really great at braising. You can also smoke. But anyhow, back to, I guess, Aussie BBQ Heroes. So I got an invitation to audition for that. I'm not sure how it happened. It was a link in my Facebook, and I did it without even telling Pam. I just basically filled out the link, put in a couple of photos of Pam and I. I was a bit skinnier back then.
I think we all were, mate.
I know, but and before I know it, I filled out that link, and within a week, I had an email back from a producer saying, "Look, we'd love to come visit you and Pam at your home and just see, what you're cooking and how you cook." And it just literally snowballed from there, the whole process. And before I knew it, we were basically being flown up to North Narrabeen, actually. It was a Big 4 caravan park. And for 2 weeks of shooting this show, this was supposed to be like, Australia's first, barbecue cooking show. And from there, I guess lifelong friends were made. It was an amazing experience. And I still speak to, I reckon, more than half a dozen people from that show on a weekly basis today, which is crazy.
Wow.
To think that was filmed probably in 2016, I'd say that was filmed. Maybe 15.
I was actually just researching that just about 30 minutes before we jumped online here, and it was 2015. I was feeling like it was 2 or 3 years ago, but that was 2015. Yeah. That's 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Well, and from that, as I said, Pam and I went onto the show, and we were surrounded, well, not surrounded, but I guess towards the pointy end of the competition, we were surrounded with basically, pitmasters or people that had been cooking, low and slow for quite a long time. You think of, we think of the Shank brothers, we think of the Flaming Mongrels, these sort of guys were, and Ricky Brydoke, of course, Bully Barbecue. I mean, these guys are, they were real pioneers, and really what started the movement in Australian barbecue. And sometimes when I hear my name saying that I'm a pioneer, or I don't know if I really are. I mean, I look at those guys as being that laid sort of the foundations. And yes, I like to say I was probably more of an early adopter as opposed to a pioneer. I got into the game pretty early, but I mean, there was other people beforehand that were doing some great things with barbecue already. And me being a competitive bastard, that's what basically sort of fueled my thirst for low and slow. Because on the show, I don't know if you've actually watched the show, Ben, but in that we made the grand finale as the Natural Born Grillers. And basically what lost it for us was our pork ribs. And I've never really done low and slow pork ribs before. And you look at all of our dishes in the grand finale, and all of them were just, amazing, except for the bloody pork rib. Pork rib let us down. So Jess wasn't a big fan of it. I don't know if those of you who don't know, Jess Pryles was one of the judges on the show, and she tore us to shreds on our pork ribs. I think she exaggerated slightly, but I mean, that's television, of course. And I'll have to take that up with her when the borders open back up, and we're going to have a face-to-face on that.
Yeah. Remember that pork rib you ate 6 years ago? We need their words about that.
Mate, I haven't forgotten, mate. Because it wasn't, we came second, and there was no second prize. It was like over $100,000 worth of prizes for the Shankies. Well deserved, amazing people, amazing cooks. But we got diddly squat. I still feel a bit ripped off. If you're listening, Mikey or Ralphie, I'm coming for you.
Mikey's going to wake up one morning and Ralph got the caravan, didn't he? He's going to wake up one morning, the caravan will just be missing out of his yard.
Or I'll be sleeping in
it. Yeah. Squatters' rights. Squatters' rights.
Yes, exactly right, Ben. So I guess that was, I mean, a lot of people do ask me about what got me into this style of cooking and what sort of fueled my thirst for knowledge. And perfection is probably a bit of a strong word, but it was really trying to right the wrongs of that show, in a funny way. I mean, when you do so well in a competition and being competitive like I am, that was essentially that was what propagated the thirst for me to, hey, I want to get good at this. And from there on in, after that show, I went and bought an offset smoker from a Radar Hill, we're an early adopter from Radar Hill as well. So Mr. Maxworthy sent me down this beautiful 20-inch pit, which we still have, and I just cannot part with, even though it sort of sits at our warehouse at the moment and doesn't get burnt very often. But I just cannot, even though people offer me money for it, it's too sentimental for me to even contemplate saying goodbye to. So, we ordered that, and I think for about 3 weeks in a row, all I did was just cook pork ribs until I got that perfect watermelon bite, until I got that perfect flavour, and to the point where I thought, hey, I think I can cook ribs now.
By which point Pam was saying, please God, no more ribs.
I know, all of our friends were actually, wouldn't say getting sick of it, but I want to come over for another dinner party. What are you cooking, Andrew? Ribs. Cooking ribs, and we're cooking ribs. But look, it did work, because I think our very first barbecue competition, which was in between basically Aussie BBQ Heroes airing, and that basically from shooting to airing, we won in our first comp. We won first place in pork ribs. Our second comp, we won first place in pork ribs. So I guess that obsession is probably the right word for it. It actually paid off.
Yeah, sounds like it. There's nothing quite like a bit of revenge success or spite success.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, and I think even to this date, if we counted all the trophies that we have in the restaurant, I'd say a large majority of them do come from pork ribs, which is which is quite funny. Well, there's a bit of irony there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Natural Born Grillers became quite the powerhouse in terms of competitions, Like I remember rolling up to competitions and seeing you guys there and going, oh, wow, the NBGs are here. Like, I'm going to have to really, cook hard this weekend to try and get out in front of them. And, I mean, you guys really became a bit of a force on the scene there. Do you still get out and compete from time to time?
the irony is, I guess this year was going to be our breakout year. We really did want to start competing this year. Again, maybe just doing a handful of competitions, but the fact that I think I mentioned before, we have a beautiful 2.5-year-old boy. It is probably makes it a little bit hard, but we did want to do a handful of competitions in 2021. But obviously, with the craziness that's sort of been happening in the world, that's sort of been prevented. I mean, we did do a bit of we broke the shackles, I think, early last year, where we were doing some cooking demonstrations at a particular barbecue competition in Bundalong, of all places, which is up near the Murray River of the border of Victoria and New South Wales. And we were on the Friday, there was a threat of the KCBS competition not going ahead because they didn't have, I think it was 15 teams. I forget the actual number, to be honest with you, Ben, but and they said, would we mind, competing just to ensure that the competition can be valid? And this was on the Friday when we were about to drive up. And I said to Pam, why not? Why not? What have we got to lose? And she's like, everything. Come on, hon. We don't practice. We haven't cooked. Yep, we haven't done a competition for over a year. I'm like, how hard is going to be, love? So we literally just looked in our meat fridge, and we'd already sold like all of our best pork ribs and briskets to other competitors that were heading up to Bundalong. And and so we literally just got the scraps. I think we had one packet of pork ribs. I think we had one Boston butt. I think we had one brisket, and we just got some chicken, I think, from the local Coles. It was like that sort of, just put together. And we went up there, and it was like a homecoming. You mentioned before about, I guess, us being a bit of a, when we were there, we were definitely the rowdiest, I guess. But I mean, there's a few teams that have sort of overtaken our mantle now. I mean, I think we've grown and matured somewhat. Now, in reality, I mean, we rocked up to that Bundalong competition, and it was just loaded with some of our closest friends in barbecue, but also scarily some of the best teams in barbecue. I mean, I think there was Big Smoke, Rolling Smoke, Smoke Place Grillers, the King and his Q. I mean, we're talking all the big hitters were at this KCBS comp on the Murray. And I guess we weren't that intimidated. We were just like, well, just rock up. Look, we haven't competed for over a year and a bit, and we've basically done it on no notice. So we just put our best foot forward and competed. And I think we were within 1 point of GC at the end of the weekend. So it was actually quite it was quite funny, but we didn't take it too serious. But it was nice to know that I guess those competitive juices were still there. So that was the catalyst for us saying, look, we should compete some more. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what that chapter holds.
G'day and welcome to AusPig, creating great meals, great memories and flavour born from fire for over 15 years. Born and designed right here in Australia for Aussie conditions, the AusPig range is your best friend for the outdoors. Featuring 3 stoves in the range, there's one built for adventure, home and in between. And with the oven smoker attachment, you'll totally transform your AusPig into your very own portable smoker. There's a huge range of genuine accessories such as the rotisserie and char grill, helping you achieve maximum flavour born from fire. At AusPig, we stand behind our range, and 15 years of development and customer feedback has led us here. Dollar for dollar, you won't find better value. Each unit features a solid 3mm steel construction, zinc-plated legs, fully steel-pressed shape and robot-welded seams. Every AusPig unit comes with a 3-year limited structural warranty, so when you buy an AusPig, you can trust that you're buying quality.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
Alrighty, so let's get into the Que Club itself. So I can see that you're in the restaurant there right now. Although is restaurant the right word for it? Because you guys do so many different sort of angles on the barbecue scene. So we've already talked about when it started. Give us a bit of an idea about how it started and all the different things that you do there.
Thanks. That's a really good question. And the birth of the Que Club was really from spending a lot of time on the road traveling between barbecue competition to barbecue competition. So it's actually a nice little conduit into that. Because when we got into it, there wasn't really a one-stop shop that you could go buy all your rubs from, or you could go buy your meat from. I mean, we found we were just driving around town, one place to get our brisket from, one place to get our ribs from. You know, I wanted a particular rub, I've got to either import it from the States and with horrendous air freight sort of expenses, or there was a couple of barbecue stores that were bringing in, you know, bits and pieces, but no what I would call, you know, one-stop shop. So, you know, obviously a few drinks around a campfire and many hours in a car, and I guess a business plan was written for the Que Club, and it was essentially, and it still has our mission statement today, it's everything barbecue. I mean, it's a celebration of smoke and fire. Whenever we do anything with the Que Club, we have to, you know, look back to our mission statement and go, look, is this, you know, a celebration of smoke and fire? You know, is this everything barbecue? And if it fits, then, you know, we go ahead and do it. So it's really that simple. I mean, the business has evolved somewhat in the last probably, you know, 12 to 18 months with the craziness that actually occurred last year. We moved premises. We had to move from our old premises. If anyone had been there, whilst they were grandiose and amazing and this beautiful sort of Art Nouveau sort of style, that was falling down around us and had to. It was about to be developed. So we did sort of we in February last year, before everything went crazy, we were very fortunate to secure a new home, and that was on Lygon Street, quite an iconic street in Melbourne. Slightly smaller premises, which was going to have come with some adjustments to the business model. And then all the craziness happened, and we literally sort of had the I guess, how would you put it, the most, you know, was we just moved, and really with no sort of fanfare, no party. Anyone who knows me, I love to throw a party. We couldn't do anything. So we almost had to start the business again to a degree. I mean, we still had our hardcore followers, because what happened is, you know, we speak about the business model before, is that, you know, we had, you know, at the old premises, it was predominantly barbecue store with barbecue classes, and then a small cafe offering of really just American low and slow style barbecue. We only did dinner one night a week on a Friday. We did brisket burgers and pulled pork burgers, and that, you know, throughout the rest of the other opening days for lunch. But that was our food offering. When we took the new premises on Lygon Street, as I said, being such an iconic, you know, I guess foodie street, and the venue that we took over was quite iconic, we deliberately wanted to make a shift to being more than just American style barbecue. Back to what I said before about being a celebration of smoke and fire. So we wanted to serve food that wasn't really cuisine centric, but barbecue centric. So everything cooked with smoke or fire. And I mentioned earlier in the interview that, you know, we have an amazing head chef. I mean, Fabio Costello is Brazilian. He loves playing with fire, as we all do, I guess. But I mean, he's, you know, my attitude was to get a chef that is a, you know, an A-grade, amazing, world-class chef that can cook with fire. I can teach a chef how to cook American barbecue, but I can't teach an American barbecue guy how to be a chef. So that was the whole attitude and sort of mantra that we took with Fabio. So moving to the new premises, we became, I guess, a lot more of an important food venue, and that's reflected in our Instagram and Facebook and our reviews as well. It's still very much the barbecue store we used to be, albeit with a bit of a slightly smaller footprint. You know, but we still have the same amount of barbecues. We still represent the same brands. Still have the same expertise. We, you know, but right now we have a restaurant that operates, you know, 3 nights a week. Is almost becoming very acclaimed and almost, you know, cementing ourselves at this part of Lygon Street now. I mean, I was so pleased a couple of weeks back to hear from another vendor saying, you know, people now coming down to this end of Lygon Street because of the Que Club, and, you know, everyone around here is thankful for that. And it was like, wow, thank you. I mean, we've only been here such a small amount of time, and it was such a, I guess, a horrible move to do during the time that we did it, because, you know, we, as I said, we couldn't really scream to the world, hey guys, we're here now, you know, come and visit us. It was hey guys, we're here now, but you can't come visit us because you're not allowed to go more than 5K from your home. Hey guys, we're here, but you can't come experience our food because it's takeaway only. So we almost, it was just like this tiered and step sort of reopening process, which gave me time to reflect on the business a fair bit as well. And, I guess make those little adjustments that needed to be made along the way, which I think right now we're seeing the benefit of. So it's been, as I said, quite a journey that I'd like to think right now that, business is starting to operate the way that I envisaged, basically a year and a half ago it would. And that also gets back to a point that I mentioned, the education part. When we started in American barbecue, there was so much misinformation. There was so much. You search how to, you Google how to cook a brisket, and trying to, I guess, decipher through all the different methods and madness online is quite crazy, and you end up destroying quite a lot of good produce in that process. So with our classes, we like to just, I guess, simplify it a fair bit, and that's one of, the Smoking with the Natural Born Grillers masterclass that we run at the Que Club. We've run that from the day we open the door every month and up until today. So obviously take out the madness from last year when we couldn't run any classes. But I guess I'm confident to say I think it's probably one of the most regularly run and well subscribed to barbecue classes in the country. Probably a little bit unknown to a lot of people, but it just keeps running and just keeps filling up. At the moment, we're booked out till November, I believe.
Wow, the classes are booked out till November. That's awesome.
But yeah, it is. It's great. It is. But part of that is also we run quite small classes deliberately because I'm quite a statical sort of person. I don't like just sitting back and listening and watching. I like to do. I like to touch. I like to cut. I like to put things in. So we ensure that all of our barbecue classes are hands-on. So that's also, if anything's rubbish at the end, we can always blame the participants, of course.
Nice, yes. The customer is always right, except.
Exactly. So no, with the classes, that's one thing that we have always sort of pushed and promoted. I don't, all the cuts of meat go on their tables, all the rubs on the tables, and provide them with everything they need to actually prepare the proteins to put them in the smoker. They do the checking, they take them off, and we're there to obviously facilitate, educate, and make sure that everything does turn out right. But I mean, that's one thing that we do enjoy with that particular class. That I think we do every protein from start to finish, bar brisket, which we actually put in 3 or 4 hours before the class, and the participants still see that cooking process as well, and it still goes for like a good 5-6 hours, which is to me it's a pretty in-depth smoking class.
Yeah, no doubt about that at all. And then they get a beautiful dinner at the end of it. That's fantastic.
That's 100% correct, sir.
And they can walk out of the shop with all the products that they need to go and replicate it at home.
Oh, 100%.
Beautiful. Now, you also, you were saying that you sell the meats, you got the rubs and the sauces, you got of course, the barbecues themselves. You mentioned Big Green Egg before. You do classes there. You also host competitions as well. I mean, that's plus the restaurant is 6. We're up to 6 different things that you do there. Tell us a bit about the competitions that you like to host there.
Well, it's part of I wouldn't like to say I'm Robin Hood, but I mean, we got so much from barbecue. We really did. We've made some lifelong friends. We've built a business out of this style of barbecue, and doing the competitions is our way of giving something back, to be honest with you. But, we ensure that 100% of the entry fees go back as prize money, which we have that luxury because we're not what I call a traditional promoter. And I'm not begrudging any promoter that obviously has to do that because that's their business. But, we have all the other elements that you just sort of, that you rattled off that can support that. So one thing that even with Masters of Q, I think we put up, I think it was like $20,000 worth of prize money. And that's going to run, hopefully, it's rescheduled for 2nd and 3rd of October this year. We've already had to postpone it once, unfortunately, but that was, I guess, created a little bit of controversy with some double points and other things, which we probably don't need to touch on. I think it got they got plenty of air attention on different forums, which was quite disappointing. I mean, we were only trying to do something unique and not trying to rattle any cages or offend anyone. It was really because Victoria had such a bad run of it. It was almost Victoria sort of emerging out of the ashes of of the craziness, and a way of sort of giving a little bit back, which is still going to occur, and hopefully we can get it's been postponed so far out. Hopefully we can get a few more teams there and make it a truly memorable experience. I think we already had like close to 40 teams registered, so if I can get to 50, 60 teams, that would make me very, very happy.
And you just mentioned that the shop was smaller now, so I'm assuming that you would have to find an external venue for all that then.
That's 100% correct, Ben. So what we went and hired the we're in Brunswick, and just north of Brunswick, the next suburb up is Coburg, and they have a velodrome now. So I've got a little bit of inspiration from the Kansas City Speedway, I guess. If you've ever been, I think you've been over there before, Ben, and I've seen you roaming around with your microphone at these different events. But they hold the Royal every year in Kansas City in the infield of basically the Speedway. Well, we don't really have a Speedway very close to the Q Club, but what we do have is a velodrome, which is, I guess, a Speedway for bicycles.
For bicycles,
They
yeah.
have quite a hefty infield as well. So I guess my concept was, we drove past it one day, I thought, hey, that'd be a cracking spot for a barbecue competition. Even better is it's in the middle of an industrial estate. So noisy buggers like the Natural Born Grillers won't keep any residents awake at night, being an inner city competition. So I approached the cycling club and said, hey guys, my name's Andrew, Que Club, I've got this, this competition I want to hold. It's, a bunch of like-minded people getting together, cooking barbecue overnight, and it's all about a community and bringing people together. Sold them the whole, Masters of Q concept, and these people just took the ball and ran with it. Andrew, that'd be great. This is just what we need to do. This is a fantastic community event. I mentioned that, basically the entry fees, we just redistribute 100% to all the teams. It's a not-for-profit activity, and they came back with a fairly favourable rate to, lease the space over the weekend, and that was how I guess the Masters of Q was reborn, because we did have a Masters of Q, I think 2 or 3 years ago now. I think it was in the back sort of lot of the old Q Club, and that was an invitational, and that was we basically sought out the best of the best and let the teams sort of fight it out on an even playing field as well. I mean, the original Masters of Q, we supplied all the meat, we supplied all the rubs. There was no secret ingredients, and I think our butchers acts were very lucky to take that out.
Yeah, I was meaning to bring that up and ask about that, because that was a fascinating concept. You had, was it Cav Cash or something beforehand, and Q Cash. Okay, yeah. And then you auctioned off the different boxes of ingredients or something?
We did. So each team was allocated the same amount of money, of course, the Q Cash, and then we had I think it was 20 teams, so we had 20 different boxes of meat. Obviously, everyone had a brisket in it, and then some of them had assorted cuts. So some may have had 10 chicken thighs, but only 1 rack of lamb. And so basically, teams had to sort of go around. They were able to inspect them all beforehand, and then we were very lucky that Mikey Hulberger from the Shank Brothers he comes from the antique trade, so he loves a good auction. So we then proceeded to auction off each box of meat. Then with their remaining cash, they could go shopping for their rubs and sauces. Obviously, the more money you spent on your meat, the less rubs and sauces you could purchase. So it required a little bit of strategy involved in it as well. And I found it was a lot of fun. I don't think I've laughed that much in a long time at that auction. It was quite hilarious, and some teams were hell-bent on particular boxes, and I think they didn't, in the end, sort of did themselves undone themselves a little bit, because they went to go buy all their rubs and realised they could only buy basically 3 rubs and 2 sauces or something like that. And when you speak to, I guess, those really sort of ingrained, full-blown competition guys, they're using, some of them are using 10 to 20 rubs on a weekend with different, the different sort of secret combinations, and they're mixing becoming alchemists with their sauces and making, 4 or 5 different sauces to make the perfect, pork rib sauce. And so we sort of took all that away and just made it like, who is the best cook on the weekend? And as I said earlier, Butcher's Axe took it out, which was turned out to be well deserved, as they were the champions that year.
Yeah, they were on quite the roll that year, weren't they? Yeah.
So you've got were.
Yeah, so you've got the next Masters of Que coming up. What else have you got in the back of your mind for Que Club in the near future?
Oh, look, Ben, I think you said before, my mind doesn't stop ticking over, and we're about to take delivery of our first new pit to have on the floor, which is quite exciting. So there's no secret we've got basically a Texas design, like 30-inch, Canon fabricated pit. Canon being pits from Texas, but we're actually getting them fabricated over here. So the designs, it's still being designed by the legends over there in Texas, and we're just getting them basically put together. And I think Adrian Lapino of who Butterbeard Barbecues, and they're sort of behind a little bit of that. So looking forward to getting a nice, pit back on the floor. But my energy at the moment is seeking out, the next biggest thing in barbecue. And what I don't want to say the next biggest thing, what I'm starting to see is a lot of the early adopters in low and slow aren't turning their back to it, but they're looking for the next challenge. And what we're seeing with that next challenge, I think, is people really embracing that sort of going back to the roots of cooking with fire. We're starting to see a real explosion of inquiry here, like hibachi cooking, Korea-style grilling, the Argentinian asado sort of style cooking. So I think watch the space with the Que Club. I really believe that is going to be the next sort of movement in the sort of that cooking space here in Australia, where we're going back to cooking all of our steaks on these beautiful South American style cookers, which I'm certainly excited about it, and I'm always on the hunt for the next thing. And I do think we're starting to move that way. Even looking at Jay with having a meat stock in Brazil now. I mean, how awesome has that been?
That's pretty wild, and I think it's a great indication for how much the Australian barbecue scene has grown. That now we're sending our competitions out to the world. That's massive.
I think it's a massive feather in the cap for Jay and what he does. That, as you said, to have an international sort of seek you out and want to brand it and do it instead of just ripping it off, which is generally the most classic way of doing it, but to actually embrace the brand and push it and promote it. I know I'm certainly looking at the dates thinking, hopefully our borders are open by then.
Yeah, it would be very nice to get over there, wouldn't it?
Oh, mate, it's one part of the world I really sort of want to visit. Their love for cooking with fire, is the same as ours, and I think we could definitely pick up a few pointers on, what directions and what trends and what works, because those guys certainly know what they're doing over there.
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Alrighty, Kev, we're into segment 3 of the show now, and this is the part of the show where our guest gets to share some wisdom with the listeners and the viewers. So for the live viewers that are joining us in the Facebook group this morning, now's the time to really start putting those questions in there. And when Kav's finished sharing his wisdom, then I'll start popping those questions to him. So, mate, I'm going to throw it over to you now. You wanted to talk to us about the Natural Born Griller's simple approach to barbecue. So I'm going to just grab my iced water here and sit back and soak up the wisdom.
It is a bit weird about thinking about wisdom, but I mean, I guess the way that we've always cooked, even from the very start of competition to now, is we're very, very simple with the way that we cook. I mean, I mentioned before with people who are all into layering rubs and using all these different sort of concoctions of sauces and the like. I mean, and I also get a little bit annoyed when people talk about competition cooking so much different than, say, commercial cooking or catering cooking. I mean, I'll go back to the pork ribs because we've already spoken about them, I guess earlier in the show. But I mean, we use the same method for competition, pork ribs as we do in our restaurant, as I do in my classes, and as I do at home. And there is no nasties. There's no, I guess, magical thing that we do. I mean, we take a very simple sort of, I guess, just to go back one step, I think it's always best to get the best produce you possibly can. I mean, that we hear it all the time, and it sounds like a broken record, a bit of a cliche. It isn't. To me, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So I'm not saying we need to go buy, full blood A9 style, Wagyu brisket. But what I am saying is try and know where, you're sourcing your produce from. Know a bit about it. But to me, free range pork means the pork's going to have more marbling, it's going to have more flavour. If you've got more marbling and more flavour, that means there's less you have to actually do to that actual protein. It's the same with your chicken. It's the same with your lamb. It's the same with all of these proteins. If you're getting the best that you believe you can get, then there's less you have to actually do to it. So pork ribs is a good example. We just use basically a solitary rub on our pork ribs in the restaurant, even in competition. I mentioned all the trophies we've won. I mean, we use basically, I'm not trying to do a plug here, Jess, but, just Hardcore Carnivore Red or just a basic red rub on our ribs. That's all we've ever used from day dot, and it's all we use now. And it's crazy how people think it's not true, Andrew. You can't just be using one rub on your pork ribs. That's all we've ever used. And I could sit here and, with my hand on my heart, that's what we use. From that, we use a very simple wrap for our ribs. We just a combination of basically butter, sugar, and honey. And we might use a bit more of a fancier honey or whatever it is in competition. It might be like a smoked honey or something like that. But again, it's just those three ingredients in a wrap. And from there, we're just trying to nail texture, because when it comes to, I guess, competition cooking, and also catering, of course, as well, is, to me, you can't fix texture in competition cooking. If you get to the 5 minutes before you have to turn in, you cannot adjust your texture. That's basically what you have. But you can always adjust flavour, I tell people. So, and I think I learned that from Tuffy Stone very early doors, is that, to me, nail the texture, because up until the moment you put anything in your competition box, you can adjust the flavour. And it doesn't matter if it's too sweet, you can add some salt. If it's too salty, you can add some sweet. You can balance it out. But if you've stuffed the cook, then there's no going back. So that's one bit of advice I give to anyone entering competition barbecue, is always nail texture, because you can adjust your flavour. Back to the simplistic way of cooking, I guess. We still, even in competition, we boat our briskets. We've been notorious, I guess, boaters from the get-go, which I don't know any other competition teams that still boat their brisket. But again, we boat our briskets, when we cook. I think we cook maybe 6 or 7 briskets a day here at the restaurant. Every one of them is boated. When we're cooking 1 or 2 for a competition, they're always boated as well. So to me, if you've got a great product, it's not going to dry out. That's what I tell people. If you're trying to cook with a substandard product, you've got to actually then make adjustments to that, and then wrapping that might be the best method. But for those of you not familiar with boating, it's essentially, I guess, a snug wrap, but leaving the top exposed. So you lay out maybe 3 sheets of foil, put the briskets on the middle, and just roll up all the edges all around it and make it very, very snug. Leave the top exposed so we can continue to create that beautiful crunchy bark that we so desire, and then cook it till it's done. And with a good product, you're not going to have any danger of that brisket sort of drying out. There's 2 tips, I guess. One on our pork ribs. The other is on brisket. I guess the third tip, I did touch on it at the very beginning of this interview, is broaden your horizons on what you can smoke. I mean, people are getting sick of, I see it all the time on different sort of forums, like, what else can I cook on my smoker? What else can I cook? And to me, think back to what I said at the very beginning, is anything that you can braise, you can smoke. So I always say that the leaner the protein it is, I guess the earlier you're going to have to turn that into a wrap or a boat or a braise. But if you can braise it, you can smoke it. So that, to me, has always been a great sort of I guess philosophy to cook by. I mean, we employed that back at the very first Invitational. It's a little bit of a funny story because they were giving away a year's worth of beer at the very first Invitational, which anyone who knows me knows I like to have a beverage or two. So I thought this is going to be a great prize to win. Is like and all you had to do was use beer from the brewery. The Australian brewery is where it was held, and if you won it, you got the year's worth of beer. But if you came second, which might be a bit of a lesson in this, you got nothing. Anyhow, on this particular, but sure enough, we went. I did typical natural born grillers. We went a bit crazy. We got basically segmented oxtails, and we smoked them as you would say a simple lamb shank or whatever it might be. I think it might be 2 hours at about 275. We basically created that beautiful bark, and you got them to dry out. Then I basically put them in a foil tray with a beautiful dark beer from the brewery, and gave it a very, very snug down with the foil, and continued to smoke them till they're essentially almost falling off that little, I guess, vertebrated bone that you see with an oxtail. In the box, it would have I would have loved to have been on the judge's table when it got opened up, because it looked like 6 little spiders essentially in the box. And I think our presentation marks got marked down a little bit, but we nailed it with, believe it or not, texture and taste. It was a beautiful sort of ossobuco sort of style oxtail, and I think we came second to Scotch and Smoke. So that's another story. And they did it with a dessert. So I reckon that is definitely cheating, boys. If you're listening from Scotch and Smoke, Mr. Nicholas, I want some of that beer. So,
mate, if a year's worth of supply went to beer year's supply of beer went to Nick, I dare say it's long gone now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's long gone. Pretty sure. But why I tell that story, because there is a classic example. When you're thinking about things that we can smoke, we automatically think of brisket, pork ribs, pulled pork. If for an Australia, lamb shoulder. But as I said, try and broaden your way of thinking and your thought process. To hang on a minute, what can be braised and as I said, you think about all the classics of the low and slow cuts. They're all braising cuts. Beef cheeks, beef shank, all these things. So that's one thing I can tell anyone if they want to liven up a dinner party or do something for at home and use their smoker. I said just go through a cookbook, and as I said, anything that's braising you can smoke.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. There's some great advice in there for sure. We've got a question come here through for you. It is, what's the best American barbecue sauce you can recommend? And what's the best rub for lamb that you'd recommend?
That's a very good question. I mean, anyone who knows, we actually bring in a lot of one part of the Que Club we didn't actually touch on today, Ben, was that we do represent a number of brands in Australia. So when we started the Que Club, it sort of evolved into being a bit of a distribution business as well. So we
that's
do
7
enjoy
things then. 7.
yeah. I like to keep busy.
yeah.
And
sorry,
ironically,
continue.
even though, yeah. So, I mean, it would be remiss of me not to say that, to me, one of the favourite barbecue sauces that we import would have to be Blues Hog. I think it goes without saying. We managed to sort of retail that all over the whole, wholesale that over the whole country. We're very fortunate to have distributors like, Barbecues Galore, etc. That's not a plug, I don't think. Maybe it was, but not a paid plug anyway. But so to me, with lamb, I think lamb's one of those really awesome cuts that you can actually treat either savoury or sweet. It actually sits in the middle. Whereas when we think of beef, we're always thinking, savoury, salt, pepper. When we're thinking about chicken, we're generally leaning towards some sweeter or pork towards sweeter style rubs. Lamb to me can actually swing both ways. It's actually a really, really, to me, universal and a cut that can be any other way. So for me, I love. There's a boutique sort of manufacturer of rubs called Feedlot. He's actually a Texan guy that lives here in Australia, and he does one called Grasslands. And to me, that is the ultimate sort of lamb rub. I really enjoy that. He uses this porcini powder, which just brings out umami, and to me, it's great. So whenever we're cooking lamb at home, that's generally our go-to. As far as sauce, as I said, I mean any Blues Hog sauce, but to me, again, being more of I a preference to a savoury palate. I love like their Tennessee Red, so more of their vinegar style barbecue sauces. To me, I love how they can cut through the fat. So that's another sort of tip to me when anyone is trying to add sauce to any sort of barbecue protein. If it is a very fatty protein, always go for something with a bit of vinegar or something that can cut through that, because adding sort of like a heavy, molassesy, sweet sort of barbecue sauce on already a rich cut, to me can be a little bit overwhelming in the mouthfeel.
Yeah, I can certainly agree with you on that, mate. Yeah. All right, let's start to round out this episode now. So I'm going to throw the studio over to you. Give some thanks, give some praise, give some shout-outs to people that have helped you along the way, and make sure you tell everybody where they can track down the Que Club on the interwebs.
Oh, Ben, I wasn't prepared to actually go through thanks, to be honest with you. I've got too many people to thank, and if I actually start rattling off specific names, I am going to be in more there's no swearing. This is a family show, so I would be in a bit of trouble. The one person I do need to thank the most is probably Pam, my wife. She supported my crazy idea to sort of walk away from, a pretty successful corporate job to follow my dream and start, I guess, the Que Club. She has been beside me the whole way, and it's been a bit of a tumultuous sort of journey to sort of start a business from, I guess, absolute scratch with no customers and to build it to what we have today. And she would be the number one person who I have to thank because she supported this crazy idea, and she works in this business with me every day now. And we're a partnership at home and we're a partnership in business. And that's the other. Well, I guess the other two people I have to thank would be, I guess, our partners in crime with Natural Born Grillers and the Que Club, and that's Dean and Dana. I mean, I guess me being the extrovert, I generally take a lot of the spotlight when it comes to the Natural Born Grillers. But, the other three members, including Pam, have done just as much and have been just as responsible for where, I guess, Natural Born Grillers and the Que Club is today. So I don't want to sort of elaborate any more and more people, because I know that I'm just going to miss people and I'm going to kick myself when I actually turn off the microphone. So for those that that I don't thank outside that, but as I said, as long as Dean, Dana and Pam know that I'm extremely thankful for not only, I guess, their advice and support, but their friendship throughout this, amazing journey that's really, to me, just begun. I mean, we're 4 years young, and, to me, to create a brand that's, quite synonymous with barbecue in Australia, I'm extremely proud of not just, not myself, but just the amazing team that I have surrounding me, because I'm a bloody lucky guy to have that, and, to have those people that, have helped me sort of grow and have believed in my, my crazy ideas.
Well said, mate. Well said. And very wise to start off by thanking the wife first. Very wise move.
Oh, thank you.
Well, look, mate, thank you very much for your time. I know it's the middle of the day. It's your lunchtime rush. So I appreciate you taking time out to join me on the show and share your story with us. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Ben. And thank you very much for inviting me to be on the show. And, hopefully the listeners got something out of, I guess, some of my ramblings today.
And there you have it, family. That was Cav from the Que Club. How cool is that guy? There's what were we up to there? 7 different aspects of the business that he runs there. That's wild. I wanted to ask him how he sort of balances it all, but we might have to get him back in the show again in a couple of weeks to sort of really drill into that a bit more, because, man, he does so many different things there, and it does all of it so well. I have to know how he manages to balance that out. So I think we will do that. I'll reach out to him again after we're done here, and we'll get him back in again. Now, that is just about all the time we do have for today, but just to give you a quick recap of the announcements from the top, huge thanks to our podcast partner, Ozpig. If you're looking for the ultimate outdoor camp cooker, I managed to get that out correctly this time. Make sure you do check them out, ozpig.com.au. They got some great gear. Ours goes with us every time we go out camping, and we just love it to bits. Okay, if you are at the start of your barbecue journey, head on over to the website, pick up your free ebook. Come join us at the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community on Facebook, and just take a second and do all the things on the socials for us. We'd really appreciate it. Woo! Now that is it now. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.